Howdy chaps, and welcome back to another fantastic episode, your low budget favourite YouTube channel. So here we are, back to the EJ for yet another episode. Last time we didn't quite get as much done as I would like because things took longer than they thought. But this episode we're going to pull the front off, we're going to solve this broken bolt issue and potentially start on some other issues on the car and weld up possibly those two washer jet holes that aren't supposed to be there. So I'll show you what we've been up to. Alrighty chaps, I might do a quick update on the workshop because you might notice there is actually a combi van back there, and I have been busy on that. I've been busy during the week, so that's been happening. But on the EJ today we're going to tackle this, take this front plate off, weld up a couple of splits, maybe a little bit of rust in there, fix that broken bolt because I'm just going to cut that open, heat the bolt and nut up, re-weld the nut back to the back side of the plate, weld the plate back in. I also found and dug out my top radiator support brace, and like I said in the last video, the thing that I did in here you'll never see because that covers it, just perfectly covers it. You're like, ah! The old boy, I keep saying the old boy, Dad, father, chum, buddy o' pal, he has been working diligently across here. I did help him by taking the engine mount plates off. If we go over here, here they are, covered in grease. He started cleaning those up. It's just part and parcel. They will go back on once I've painted the whole front end, but he's got most of the junk off. Is that surface rusting? No, it is just dirt. Okay. The joys of being in South Australia, it's a fairly dry climate. Metal doesn't actually surface rust that fast here. If you touch it, it will, so better clean that. A little bit of time after work each day, I have been actually progressing with the floor. Now on the driver's side there was a few holes. What I did was, to make sure that I found every hole, is I needle scaled underneath the car, then on top of the floor pan, and anywhere there was a hole, you know, I figured if that thing can't go through the floor, my theory is the floor is still pretty strong. So it poked through a smattering of holes, but they actually welded up pretty easily, so they're all welded up, and luckily there wasn't actually that many. And I've just painted the floor with the same stuff I painted that front cross member with, just some enamel kill rust type paint. And I figured this is my car, this is my budget, and my budget ain't very big, so I don't want to replace the floor if I don't have to. I do have floors. Half the reason I don't like replacing the floors is the floors you buy are not very good. Very rarely do they ever fit. So if I can repair the floor and save its original shapes and stuff like that, I'm going to. And the Starry Night I had on that side, I did the same thing, and I was actually able to weld up all of the holes in that side, so they're all gone. But I have cleaned it across, and I'll just go around there now. I have discovered there was a few bigger holes which I'm going to have to repair on this side. Yeah, it's pitted, yes, I'll admit, but if a needle scaler won't go through it, and I have stabbed it sufficiently with a screwdriver, I'm considering that floor still very, very strong. It's not, it looks worse than it actually is. And especially if a welder can weld up the holes, then you know there's still a fair bit of thickness there, because normally if you're trying to weld up steel that's super thin, it'll just blow out like tissue paper. Certain areas that I won't, I'll just cut that out and redo. And I mean, if I can save the floor, that's good. If it decides it's going to rust out again in the future, then I'll put a floor pan in it. But if I can save it and get a bit more life out of the floor, then I'm going to. It just makes sense to me. Plus it looks better. The shapes are all right, and I mean, you know, I'm not exactly a lightweight, and did nothing to the floor. And actually the upside with this stuff is when it gets dirty, it cleans real easy because it's super slippery. So, you know, there's a few holes here, here, here. I took that plate off. Some of it's still really good, so it's not that bad. I don't actually think the miles on this car are very high at all. But the last person decided to bog them up, so I'm going to you know, I have a floor pan for the front if I get stuck, but I'll probably just replace this section. This stuff was perfect, that stuff was good, all those holes there are all gone. This one I'm going to have to do, and that one, there's just a bit too many holes in that one. So I've got this one on order, floor pan should I say, that one's just there, and I do have the front too, but apparently I don't need them, or at least I'm not going to use them if I can avoid it. Plus I can just make that shape. Also got a lower rear quarter section for the passenger side there. I've actually got the remnants of another quarter panel over there which is going to do the wheel arch, and I'll have to figure out something with the dog leg because I'm still not happy with the replacement panels for those. And I do have a beaver panel on order, so we are making good progress, and I can replace this corner with what's on that there, which is all good. So a bit of a workshop update. That's the floor out of that combi van. So over here we have the bus that I've been doing. Now the front floors you get in these are in 3 bits for some reason. I've done a side step, and I must say something. These, for anybody who's doing a combi van, you probably won't be on this channel, but you never know. These are the worst repair panels I've ever encountered in my life. They do not even remotely come close to fitting, and I don't know who made that one, but I'm glad I don't do combi vans on a daily basis. These aren't too bad, like the floor pans, but still I had to stomp on them to get them in, because they were, you know, too much of a bend in them and things like that. They did not, nothing on this fitted well at all. So there was a lot of modification on that side step over there for the inner piece and the outer piece, which goes sort of like that. If somebody asks you to fit one of these in the future, the answer you're looking for is no. And yes, we've got to do that on this side this week. And everybody loves a bit of chicken wire in there, don't they? So that's what the other side looked like, and it's been replaced, and I've done the best I can. I've trial fitted both the doors to make sure I get everything right for this bus. And considering I actually had to use a lot of oxy equipment to reshape that inner step to its correct shape so it would actually fit. Took a bit of doing, but it's in there, and the floor's in there too. So, and another side topic, I'm actually doing a couple last few dents on the VF wagon. Only doing these ones because, well, these aren't accident related, these are just wear and tear damage, but unfortunately with write-offs and repairable write-offs, one of the stipulations is that the car has to be cosmetically perfect as well. So like all of the dents, no matter what they are, minor stuff you can get away with, but little dents, nah, you got to fix them all. So I'm doing them because, yeah, it was part and parcel. This dent here that's in the bar actually went into the tailgate, and there was a little whack over here, and I thought better fix them. It's not hard, plus especially with these wagons you can take this piece of trim off and only have to paint the bottom half of the tailgate, so that's a win. So yeah, I just took the trim off, tapped out the dents from the inside. This one I couldn't get to, which is lucky, but it was only a little baby dent, and 5 minutes with a bit of filler and a bit of sanding, and done. I had this tailgate repaired in probably half an hour, and obviously primed it and whatnot. But yes, fixing up the wagon. It is actually booked in for its trip through Regency, but it's you know, a 3-month wait. The waiting list is pretty epic, so it's just, I was like, well, I've got some time, I'll just fix the last few dents so that it doesn't get rejected for anything. And I will fix that bumper bar in my spare time. Pretty straightforward. This is bread and butter. This is what these little shopping trolley dents and stuff are what 90% of crash ops fix. So there's that. So back to the EJ. Wander back over here. Right, so we've got a few things to do. That repair came out lovely. The underside of this is looking beautiful. Couple of days. So first things first, rip this rad support off, which I've just sat on top, and drill out the spot welds for that, and pull that off. And I'll catch you up in a second. Alrighty, that is off. That is off. As I suspected, there is going to be a few things to weld up. So underneath this is actually where your side bumper bar bracket bolts on for the front bar. So I've got a few things to do here, but it did allow me to get this off, and look, you can see all the rust between seams and stuff. I'm leaning towards a sort of, I much prefer cars to be dipped these days than sandblasted now, because one, I'm never convinced the sand ever comes out of them, and dipping usually does a lot more crevices. Now, I would never have been able to wire wheel this with this panel on, so this is going to allow me to get all this cleaned up. There's no rust through here at all. It will allow me to tidy up this corner here from last week, which I didn't quite get finished, and I had trouble drilling out the spot weld in that corner because I just couldn't see it. Interesting to note, this is for a tech tip for people, if you can get it almost all the way, twisting two bits of steel that are spot welded together, as in, like, say you got a panel like that, and you can't get it off like that, twist it if you've got it mostly loose and it will break the spot weld almost immediately. So that motion, which is why you might notice at the end I sort of went backwards and forward with it and just sheared the weld clean off. Also, the other thing you notice that when I'm drilling out spot welds, I'm sort of wobbling the drill bit. That's just to speed things up, and it helps the edge of the drill bit dig in a bit and sort of basically cut around the edges. But you know, everybody's got their own methods, and that's mine. So I'm going to clean this up, and I'm not going to bore you with that, so we'll catch up once I've done it. Alrighty, so I've cleaned that up, just sprayed some etch and some copper spray, looking lovely. Now over here, I did actually weld this up. Doesn't look overly pretty. I've got to tack that little hole up, but there was a split that ran down there in a series of deep pittings, and I just welded them up. I might touch it again there, and that's it. And I've obviously managed to clean up the whole inside, so that's looking lovely. Knocked out a lot of dents. Pretty much a couple of little touch-ups, and we can stick this back in. It's not been that exciting because, well, wasn't actually that much wrong with it, but I was just taking it off. So realistically, I was only taking it off so I could clean behind it. So putting it back on, and then we'll tackle that little issue down there, and then clean up the whole front, and then I might wire wheel gently around the ID tag. I've sprayed some anti-rust stuff in there. I might clean behind there and go down, and then we'll pretty much have the whole engine bay spotless. And then once I'm welding that back on, we'll go about getting rid of these washer jet holes that were aftermarket. Yeah, I'll just basically put another padlock behind there, weld that up. I might get my oxy set in here and heat that up so I can get that broken bolt out. Somebody's tried to drill it out, but quite often if you just nuke it with a bit of heat, they'll just undo with a pair of pliers on the end of them, especially if there's enough bolt poking out of it. So that's where we're at. Once I've got this sitting back in, I might do a time lapse of welding it back in. Alrighty, that's welded back on. I did actually bolt this back on with a lot more bolts, just for peace of mind, to know that I didn't bugger anything up, which I didn't think I did, but it always helps to, you never know, test fit things and trial fit things before you actually go doing too nuts. I mean, I know this car's inside out and upside down, back to front, so I was pretty right, but even I still will trial fit things, and I did zap up a couple of things on this side where a couple of welds weren't quite complete, and there was a couple of pinholes and things. I was like, alright, and then managed to burn a hole straight through the seat I was sitting on right underneath my crutch, so that was warm. But yes, this is bolted back on. There's actually, on these things, you've got two here, a nut and a bolt under here, and then you have 1, 2, 3. These ones are the top radiator bolts, mounting holes, but these are actually more bolts that go under here. These are actually incredibly well secured onto the car, and the bolt goes through here, so all of that lines up perfectly. So I ain't gonna bore you with any grinding. I'm just gonna, buzz them down, and then we can move on to getting that bolt free from down there, which should be fairly straightforward, but making good progress. Alrighty chums, I have hacked open that. A little bit more difficult than it was initially thought to be. I'll zoom in. So you have the outer plate and then there's another plate behind it, so got to cut through both of them. But as we zoom out, I also have Y-wheel and treated that. That should, in theory, all turn black where I put it on. And if you hear a background noise, that's the wind from the fan. My one adoring fan. And you guys. So what I'm going to do now is heat this up to oh my god hot and undo it, and then I'm going to flatten out this piece and clean that up and re-weld that back to the inside of that, and then clean all the rust off it, and because it's actually not rusty, it's just surface rust, hammer it flat and put it back in and weld it back in and weld that back in and have that done. It's pretty straightforward really, just weld. We are making good progress. This, in theory, broken bolt is the last metalwork on the Y-frames, I think. And then we can move forward to the top of that A-pillar, the washer jet holes, core on the windscreen, and work our way further back. But that'll be good. If I have that done by the end of today, I'll be laughing at all the wireframes perfect. I would consider that a win. Alrighty, it's come along fairly well. I didn't want to bore you with all the not overly exciting details. It's pretty simple. I also really hope that those other ones don't break anytime soon, because it wasn't as straightforward as I thought to get it out. I thought it was a nut welded behind one layer. It turns out it's behind two, so that does actually make it a little bit harder than it was. But in the end of the game, it's still very straightforward. And yes, when I heat it up with the oxy, the bolt just undid it with, I mean, you can't use your hands because the thing's about 700 degrees, but with a, a shifter, it was able to be undone with relative ease. And I've cleaned it up both sides and it's looking lovely. Now, I did have one question from a chap in my comment section. He was asking how to take the gutter molds off an EJ Holden. I don't have a video on it, unfortunately. I don't actually have any cars here with gutter molds still attached to them, unfortunately. But I can tell you that what you're going to want is something like this. Probably not that one, but a small sliver of wood that you can use as, say, a chisel almost. And the gutter molds, if you did a profile, they're like that, and they sit on and snap down. So on an EJ Holden, they're actually horrifically simple. You basically want to and they've got a little lip that sticks out, and you basically just pick them off as you go, and they just roll. And rolling them off, basically, don't try and bend them out because you'll absolutely destroy them. You want to give them like a twist almost, and they twist off. So basically, just when you get to a door opening, you can use one of those bits of wood and a hammer and just tap on the bottom little edge of it, and it should just pop it off. And then when you get to your corners, same deal, and they come down to about here. On EH Holdens, the gutter mold, main gutter mold, should be very identical to this, but it stops about here. There's a little corner piece, and then an EH has a gutter mold that runs down here, and those, I believe, are screwed in. Take that off and then tap them off, going like that from underneath. Just tap 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 and give it a twist if it gets stuck. Just be gentle. Basically, as simple as it sounds, gutter molds on a lot of cars, actually, even Falcons, are tapped off from underneath. And twisting. Don't do this action. You want to do this action, gently. It doesn't matter if they come off and look like they're a twisted piece of spaghetti. When they go back on, they will actually straighten out. And you can also gently give them a backwards twist so that they can actually lock in and stay in. Rubber mallets are also handy, giving them a light downward blow, that way to snap them back on. I noticed that EJs don't have quite the lip under here that E8 XBs and that have, but same deal. Just lift up from underneath, twist off, job done. I've also, that answers that question. I've also given that a coat of etch. Back onto this, I'm going to weld this plate back in. Unfortunately, when I was doing it, I had to slice it open through there and twist it off to get over that top layer because I didn't know. So when I weld it back in, I'll then go over that and weld that. Pretty good, and I'll catch up once I've done that. And unfortunately, my welder is nearly out of gas and it's getting a bit late in the day, so I don't know how much else I'm going to get done in this video. So catch up in a second. Alrighty, chummaroonies, I think that'll call it for an episode. As they say in the classics, a simple 10-minute job is one broken bolt away from a 3-day fiasco. But it is now solved. I ran a tap through the rest of the threads on the bumper bar bolts so that when it comes time to bolting the bumper bar on, I'm not going to snap anymore, because that would be very, very sucky. But that's the wireframes done. I mean, not done, they'll still be cleaned up, but there's no more welding to be done to the wireframes. Everything that's got to be done is done. And I know people go, why are they called wireframes? But if you look at the leg down there, you'll see it comes out and then goes, ooh, in the shape of a Y. That's why they're called that. But yes, don't know. Unfortunately, we didn't get everything done in this video that I wanted to do. Just time's a bit usually gets away from me, and that turned out to be a much bigger task than I thought. But because I wanted to get it done, I sort of didn't film it, but it wasn't overly exciting, so I didn't film it. But I hope you don't hate me. This video might have more talking than action, but you know, we'll mix it up. And you had a bit of a workshop update, so in the next video we'll probably tackle those holes, hole on the roof over there, and start working our way down the car. But do remember, this isn't a big dollar resto. It's cleaning up what I've got, fixing what I have to do, and just making the most of what I've got. I'm not trying to win any show awards. I'm just trying to do a good job with something that I'd be happy to drive around the roads. So I hope you've enjoyed the videos so far. There's more to come, because I'm enjoying working on it. So I hope you liked this episode. May not be everybody's cup of tea, but you know, it is what it is. So I'll catch you on the next one.